Hey there, welcome to today's episode. We're going to be doing a general overview of the channel mixer on the MPC. This is just for the beginners. There will be more in-depth tutorials throughout the series, but I just want to get you started. What is the channel mixer? How do you access it? And the basic functions, how it works. So it's this little icon down here. I've moved it into my sidebar. You may find it in your menu options. It's called the channel mixer. I'm going to open that up. This is a really simple project, just 2 tracks so that it doesn't become too confusing. If we go to main, this is track 1, it's drums. Track 2 is chops, and you can see the color, the title, it's exactly the same when you move over into the mixer. This has been greatly improved since MPC 2.0. Used to be these little kind of horizontal mixers, it wasn't the best, and since 3.0, it now acts more like a typical DAW, some really clear information, some nice tabs that we'll run through in a second, but it is a lot better in 3.0. If I press play, can see that volume information. It's what you expect from a typical mixer view. And in a nutshell, that's all it is. Every track has its own independent volume control. And this is how you balance your mix towards maybe the end of your production, whatever you're working on, or at the beginning if you're into kind of balancing as you go. So that's the information that we're looking at. The one thing that I want to show you, for the new users in particular, is that on the overview of the homepage episode, we took a look around and I showed you up here that we have these little channel strips. So you open them up, and you can see them here. This is just a quick view to the main mixer. The reason we know that is because if we select this one and turn the chops track all the way down, this is our master channel on the other side. But if I turn this one down and move over, you'll notice I've turned the volume down here. So you're looking at the same thing. Sometimes with the MPC, it's a bit confusing because you're wondering whether that's an independent volume control. It isn't. It's the same thing as just going into the channel mixer. So that's the information that we have. And in the same way, we can do that. We could highlight this and we could move the volume control around. We'll come back to those features in a second. Let's start just at the very top. You'll notice the first thing I can do is highlight the track. So whatever one is selected is kind of highlighted. We can double click on here and I could rename. If I rename a track here, it's renamed on the main page because again, it's linked, but it's nice and useful. I can arm it for recording, do stuff like that. And then we've got some MIDI things, which we'll get into in a further episode because it's a little bit more advanced. But for now, let's just close that down. So we can name, we can select, and we can also add. So if I wanted to add a new track, I can do it right in here. I'm not going to add one for now. We'll just keep this nice and simple. But it's the same thing if we go over to main and we add a new track here. It's exactly the same thing, but you can just do it from this menu. It's just a handy little feature. If we take a look here, we've got obviously the volume channel strip. So we've got a volume control. We can highlight this with the red rectangle, which we've seen before. And the other thing that's slightly confusing on the MPC is that when we talk about the Q links, and you've seen this in other episodes if you've been following along, the Q links generally have like a orange colored rectangle, which means the Q links are enabled. For some reason, they don't show up on the mixer, but you do have Q link control. If we hold this down, you will see the parameters that you can change with the Q links, and you can edit and you can assign new ones and things like that. But that's what you can do. The reason that's important is because here I've got this track selected and we've got the little red rectangle, but I can still select the volume slider on this side with the red rectangle, but keep that track highlighted. Now, why is that important? Because I can use the encoder here to move the volume control, but whatever the selected highlighted track is, we can then use the Q link. So I can use the Q link to move around and do the volume over here whilst independently changing this one. If that's something you're just trying to balance something, maybe that's a useful tool for you. Just keep that in mind. The Q links work on the highlighted track, not the one that's deselected. Let's move across with the tab. So this is volume. It's just showing the volume control nice and clearly. If we move over, pan in volume, which is what you would imagine, we have the channel strip still in the middle, which again, you can select and do your volume control or use the Q links. And here the Q links come more into play because you will see what it changes. If the highlighted track is selected, then I can move the Q link up and down for the volume. I can use the second Q link to pan left and right. And then we've got this one, which is muting. And we've got 1, 2 arm soloing. So you can do a bunch of different features with the Q links in this menu. Obviously, they're just keeping things separate. So if you're just concerned about the volume, you've got a nice clear view. If you need slightly more detailed information, you can move over. But of course, it's only a small screen, so things can get a little bit cluttered. They're trying to just separate that out to make your life easier. So this is where we've got a bunch of different information. You can also arm your automation in here, but automation we'll cover in another episode. If we move over, you've got some sends, so you can set up some custom sends. Again, that's for more advanced users. We'll get into that later on. Effects, as I mentioned, if I go into this channel strip, and we add some type of effect, let's just say we want to add an air delay, we'll just choose whatever for now. If I go back over here, you're going to see that air delay pop up in there. And there is going to be a separate episode on effects and things for opening these up and taking a look at parameters. I'm just going to delete that one for now. But that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the effects for that particular channel. If we move over here, ins and outs, again, maybe slightly for more advanced users, but setting sort of inputs and outputs relating to MIDI and audio sources, things like that. And then over here, we've got some basic settings, which again, for now, as a new user, you don't need to be too concerned about. We'll cover those in greater detail later on. But that's just a general overview of the channel mixer. I'll see you in the next episode for the pad mixer.